Good morning and welcome again to the Veterans Forum. Today is the 15th of July 2008 and we're here at the studios in Pittsfield Community Television. This is another one of our veteran interviews and I am so proud and so happy for this one. It's the first gal who's come forward to offer to share some of her memories. This, I hope, will be a great show. Name is Lois Kelly. Good morning, young lady.
Good morning.
Would you introduce yourself again, please? Spell your last name and tell us where you now live.
Lois Longacre Kelly, K-E-L-L-Y, at 6 Baver Drive, Salisbury Estates in Pittsfield.
Thank you. You were in, I believe, the Army Nurse Corps. Would you give us your dates and so forth when you were in the service?
Yes, we volunteered in the fall of '44 and reported the beginning of December '44, and I was discharged March 16th, '46.
Great, thank you. Now, that takes care of where we are now, but let's go back a bit. Where were you born and what was it like growing up during the early part of your life as far as family goes?
I was born in Brookline, Pennsylvania, which is now called Havertown. It's a suburb of Philadelphia. And I grew up there. And I had one older sister and one older brother. It was a very happy childhood. And then I went in training at Jefferson Hospital in Philadelphia and did attend U of P in Philadelphia for the equivalent of a year. And then I did school nursing in my hometown in Haverford Township. Mm-hmm.
Now, backing up a little bit, you obviously, to be in the colleges, you had to go through the regular school system, elementary, high school, and so forth. Do you have any fond memories of some of the things you did before you joined into the service, as far as clubs, activities, friends, things that you did to make life interesting? How was it growing up during the Depression?
I was fortunate. My father was a teacher at West Philadelphia High, and I remember that he just took a 10% pay cut, and we didn't suffer for anything during the Depression. It was a very happy childhood, but we just didn't spend a lot of money. You didn't have it.
Okay, what you don't have, you can't spend, no matter how big the credit card.
Right, yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
Now, where did you study in your nursing career? Where did you start that?
Jefferson Medical College Hospital in Philadelphia. And I graduated from there in '42. And then I took some some courses at University of Pennsylvania, the equivalent of a year. Mm-hmm. And you had to do that in Pennsylvania to be a school nurse. Oh. So I was asked to come back and work at the same school system that I had gone through. Good. So I was very familiar with it.
Great, great. Now, what prompted you to go in the Army?
Well, we knew that they were recruiting for the Army Nurse Corps, and another school nurse in Delaware County and I decided to go in together. And you would be able to be assigned with a friend in the Army Nurse Corps, and they would keep you together.
Oh, a buddy system.
It was very nice.
Good.
And so Martha and I went to Fort Meade, Maryland for basic training for 1 month. And of course, we were all RNs, so we went in as second lieutenants. And what we had there was military protocol, classes, some medical classes, gas mask training, and you had to know your service number. And I can remember my service number better than my Social Security number because you had to say it before you could get out of the gas chamber when you pulled off your gas
pull out the
mask.
mask, yeah.
Right, so N762896, my military number.
Bingo.
But, we wore wool long johns and fatigues for basic training classes all day long, which we thought was funny. But it was a good experience.
Okay.
It wasn't. We had map reading, whatever.
Well, how about the basics, marching and the old M1 strip, re-strip, put together again?
Well, we had marching and exercises in basic, but it wasn't until we were forming our hospital for overseas that we had the field stripping and rifle range and so forth.
Did you actually shoot?
Yes.
How would you score? Expert, marksman, or holy smokes?
It was fairly good. I don't remember, except I didn't make a fool of myself.
Okay.
But from basic training, we were sent to Fort Story, Virginia, and assigned to the base hospital there. So for several months, I was on general duty, surgical wards, and isolation. And then they asked for volunteers for overseas. So Martha and I and another girl from Philadelphia, Jean Gallagher Owens, or Jones, Jean Gallagher Jones, volunteered for overseas. So at that time we were sent to Fort Benning, Georgia, because they were forming the 307th General Hospital down there. And there were 90 nurses, 2 Red Cross girls, and 2 dietitians, 2 dietitians. And then, of course, the doctors and the corpsmen. So that's where we formed our hospital. And we had our extra basic training for subjects that we would need overseas. And we all had to pass the swimming and the diving test. And
That must have been fun.
well, I could swim, so I had no problem. But then we went on the rifle range, and we had to take the M1 rifle apart and put it together and practice. And we had medical subjects, but we were headed for the ETO. And down at Fort Benning, we also worked on the hospital floors, not all the time, but as part of our duty. And I was assigned to teaching corpsmen sterile dressing techniques. And they had a lot of injuries from the paratrooper school down there. And I do remember on night duty, we had to do bed check, because at that time, all patients were kept in the hospital until they were fully ready to go back on duty.
Okay, fit
full
for duty. Yeah.
Fit for duty, right. So I remember one night there was one man missing at 10 o'clock, and I thought, oh, what am I going to do? Because I didn't want to report him, but if I didn't, what would happen?
Yeah.
And so the other fellows were all telling me, don't report him, he'll be here, he'll be here. And of course, he was one who would soon be back on duty anyway. So I just held off until the next bed check, which was 2 hours later, and he was back. But I was very worried about that.
One of my bodies is missing.
Yeah, one of my bodies is missing, right. So, but, and then our unit was sent up to Camp Kilmer, New York, by train to go over to the ETO. And we were there 2 weeks, and it was close to the time of the victory, European victory. So our orders were changed, and we were sent back to Fort Benning again.
Back to Georgia.
Back to Georgia again. And on the way, our train was pulled onto a siding, and Franklin Delano Roosevelt's funeral train passed very slowly by us, and you could see into the car with all of the different service members standing at attention around the coffin, and everybody lined the route, the railroad tracks. All the people were out to pay tribute to the president at that time. So that was a memory that I had there. So then we went back to Fort Benning, and since our orders were going to be for the Pacific, then we had some tropical medical classes, and one of the doctors finally stopped our 5-mile marches every day because it was 90 degrees. We bivouacked, did things that they felt we might need.
Now, was this training anything like what the Korean bit, the MASHs, or were you just a regular hospital unit set up in one place when you got there?
Well, it was to be a station hospital, which is not a movable one.
Okay.
It would be in one location.
So you're kind of permanent party whenever you
Right.
landed.
Okay. Yeah. So down at Fort Benning, of course, our barracks were a mile from any bus transportation on the post, and any date you had to walk a mile to the officers' club. There's no way to
No
get there.
jitney or anything?
Huh?
No jitney? We used to have little base
No,
buses.
no, nothing. We walked, and you could have all the dates you wanted because the nurses were in demand for dancing and so forth. Well, on May 19th, I was one of 3 blind dates for a dinner dance at the Officers Club, and that's where I met my future husband.
What year was that, 44, 45?
That was 1945.
Thank you.
And May 19th. And we dated every night until he went on a secret mission in Texas, where he was the commander for the communications platoon. So he left July 6th, and he arrived back several weeks later, 10 hours after our troop train left for the Pacific.
Oh.
So we missed each other by 10 hours, yes. But now he was from Pittsfield, a Pittsfield native, Thomas LeBar Kelly.
Oh, yeah.
And at the time I met him, he was a first lieutenant.
He retired as a colonel, didn't he?
Yes, he did.
He and Jimmy Pennell.
Oh, yes. Yes, he retired as a lieutenant colonel. He was the commander for the 1st Battalion, 376th Infantry Regiment in Berkshire County. And he had 4 years of active duty in World War II, and then 24 years in active reserve.
Yeah.
So he went to 2-week encampments every year, and had 1 or 2 nights a week or weekends here.
Good.
Training.
Yeah. Now, when did you actually leave date-wise for going overseas, and where did you head? What was your trip like getting to wherever you went? That should be fun.
We left by Pullman train, and it took us 5 days to get from Fort Benning, Georgia to Camp Anza at Riverside, California. And we played cards all day long, but we were able to get out for a few hours in El Paso, and we crossed over into Mexico. We talked our way into Mexico because we were all in uniform, and they let us go in for some shopping right in Juarez. But and then it was just a long trip.
Uneventful, though, huh?
Uneventful otherwise. We did have a stopover in New Orleans also.
What route did you take from Benny all around the south into California?
I don't know the route.
Because I know. Well,
But
okay.
from Georgia, we went through New Orleans and then El Paso,
Yeah.
Texas, and then to Camp Anza.
Great. Now, how long were you at Camp Anza? And what were you do? Did you have any special
That's-
additional training then?
No, that's a port of embarkation,
yeah.
POE. And we stayed perhaps a week, and they fed us beautifully. We thought we were being fed for the kill. It was
Fattened
delicious, delicious food. But then we went on the USS Comfort, and that was a hospital ship that had been hit by a kamikaze plane 3 months before, and 29 medical personnel were killed and a number of others wounded in that kamikaze attack. And this was the maiden voyage after the ship had
All
been
rehab,
repaired.
yeah.
And there were about 550 of us on board, and not as a working hospital, but as a transport to Manila.
Okay.
And they were mostly nurses and doctors on board. And poor Jean, she was pea green, seasick for 3 days when we left the coast because it was rough. But and you always had 2 meals a day on board. We got into Manila September 7th, and it was 5 days after the war was officially over.
In ETO.
No,
Oh.
no, in the Pacific.
Oh, okay. I'm trying to get some dates. That's what I'm trying to find out.
Yeah, no, the atomic bomb was dropped while we were on the high seas, the first atomic bomb. And the war was over by the time we landed. But the war was officially over on the 2nd of September.
Yeah.
And we landed in Manila on the 7th. And that was an interesting way to get off of the ship, coming down the gangplank, holding onto rope, and then going into an LCT, and it was complicated.
Did anybody go in the drink?
No, but one of the bedrolls did.
Oh.
Yeah.
Now, when you left the States, did you go straight through, or did you stop any, like Hawaii, Ulithi, Mogma, Guam, any of the islands, or just a straight shot?
Straight shot to
Oh,
Manila.
You're lucky. Good. When you landed, then where did you go? What did you set up? Was the hospital area all assigned, or did you just have to move in and build it up yourselves?
We were stationed in Manila for a while at a hospital, but we were not working at the hospital. We were staging. I must say that Luzon could have sunk from all of the American soldiers that were there for the invasion of Japan
Okay.
and then the occupation. But everywhere you went, there were GIs. You had no trouble bumming a ride on a truck. We would climb up into the back of a truck, and they would take us wherever we wanted to go.
Good.
Yeah. Then we went by a bombed-out train up to San Fernando, which was about 120 miles. and there were 180 nurses on the train in 3 cars, and it was just wood slat seats, and there were no windows. I mean, just spaces for windows. We brushed our teeth out the side from our canteen water, and then we ran out of water, and the only thing to drink was warm beer. And to this day, I cannot drink beer.
Even I cool it off for you? No, no way.
No.
No,
But
is that real beer?
it was a
3-2?
very slow trip up to San Fernando, and that's where we never set up there because we were supposed to go in to Japan.
Oh, this is the pre-occupation.
This is staging.
Okay.
Okay. So up at Base M, we had 10 nurses to a tent, a wooden platform, and then, of course, the canvas top and sides. And, oh, it was so hot some days we couldn't stand to be in the tent. I even made some halter bras from a supply parachute for the girls because our men had left for Japan on October 11th. And we were told to keep 3 days' clothing, and our bedrolls and footlockers went with the men. And so we had very little clothing, and